So for this video discussion, we are going to discuss another standard, and that is PAS 10. So this is about events after the reporting period. So first, let us define what are the events after the reporting period. So according to PAS 10, these are the events, favorable or unfavorable, that occur between the end of the reporting period and the date when the financial statements are authorized for issue. So basically, in order for us to determine which events falls under PAS 10, we need to determine two important dates. And these are the date of the end of the reporting period and the date the financial statements are authorized for issue. So as you can see in our timeline, we have two reporting periods. So these are year 2000A and year 2000B. So based on this timeline, this is the end of the reporting date, the end of year 2000A, and this is the date when the financial statements are authorized for issue, which is already in the next accounting period, which is year 2000B. So under PAS 10, any events that will occur between the reporting date and the date the financial statements are authorized for issue are considered as events after the reporting period. And we have two types of events after the reporting period. These are adjusting events and non-adjusting events. So when we say adjusting events, these are the events that provide evidence of conditions that existed at the end of the reporting period. So we call this adjusting events because this will require the preparation of adjusting entry or update of the financial statement disclosure because the event that occurred after the reporting period affects the current reporting period. However, the other type of event after the reporting period is the non-adjusting events. So these are the events that are indicative of conditions that arose after the reporting period. So we call this non-adjusting events because it does not affect the current reporting period, which in this case, in our example, the current reporting period is 2000A. So in order for the event to become an adjusting event, such event must affect the current reporting period, which is year 2000A. And for that to happen, there must be a condition that existed on or before the end of year 2000A. So that is the case for the adjusting event. And for the non-adjusting event, it will not affect the year 2000A reporting period because such event does not affect any condition that occur during the reporting period. And of course, any event that will occur after the date the financial statements are authorized for issue are no longer under PAS 10, which is obviously considered as non-adjusting events. So since these dates are important in the determination of the events after the reporting period, so let us discuss each of these dates. So first is the reporting date. Of course, the reporting date is usually December 31 following the calendar year. Of course, the reporting date would be different in case the entity is using fiscal year of accounting period. So now, let us proceed to the date when the financial statements are authorized for issue. So what is the date the financial statements are authorized for issuance? So this is the date the management or the board of directors authorizes the issuance of the financial statements, regardless of the approval of the shareholders or a supervisory board that is composed of non-executives. So always remember that the date the financial statements are authorized for issuance are based on the authorization given by the board of directors of the corporation or its management. So if there is a date provided where the shareholders given their approval in the issuance of the financial statements or a supervisory board which is composed of non-executives, the date the financial statements are authorized for issuance is still the date the board of directors or the management authorizes the financial statements for issue. So the events after the reporting period under PAS 10 will be between the reporting date and the date the financial statements are authorized for issue by the board of directors or the management. So now let us proceed to the two types of events after the reporting period. Again, these are the adjusting and non-adjusting events. So for the adjusting events, to consider the event as an adjusting event, again, there must be a condition that existed on or before the end of the current reporting date, which in this example, our reporting period is year 2008. If there is a condition existing on or before the end of the reporting date, and there is an event that occurred between the reporting date and the date the financial statements are authorized for issue, and such event is related to that condition that existed during the current reporting period, such event is considered as an adjusting event. And the adjustments may include the adjustments in the face of the financial statements where amounts reflected or presented in the financial statements need to be adjusted, or just an update of the disclosure in the notes to the financial statements. However, to be considered a non-adjusting event, the condition does not exist during the current reporting period, in this case, which is year 2008. So for non-adjusting event, such event is considered non-adjusting wherein there will be no adjusting journal entries to be prepared. The non-adjusting event after the reporting period must not be related to a condition that existed during the current reporting period. To be considered as a non-adjusting event, the event that occur is related to a condition that existing after the reporting period. So again, to be considered as a non-adjusting event, this event should be related to a condition that exists after the reporting period. Because if such event is related to a condition that existed before the end of the reporting period, such event is considered as an adjusting event. So what happens if the event is a non-adjusting event? We need to determine if such event is a material or immaterial information. If such event is a material information, we need to disclose such event in the current year reporting period. So for example, if the event is material and such event occurred after the reporting period, which is also related to a condition that existed after the reporting period, such event should be disclosed in the 2000A financial statements, although it does not affect the financial statements, although it does not affect the face of the financial statements for the year 2008. However, if the event is considered as immaterial, it can be ignored, which means there will be no disclosure required. So now let us focus on non-adjusting events after the reporting period. So if a non-adjusting events after the reporting period are material, non-disclosure could reasonably be expected to influence decisions that the primary users of general purpose financial statements make on the basis of those financial statements which provide financial information about a specific reporting entity. So again, if the non-adjusting event is considered as material, non-disclosure of such event will influence the decision of the primary users of the financial statements. Because when we say material, the decision of the user will be different if such event is included or not included in the financial statement disclosure. So that is why the non-adjusting events that are considered as material should always be part of the disclosure to the financial statements. So what are the information to be disclosed for the non-adjusting events that are considered material? So accordingly, an entity shall disclose the following for each material category of non-adjusting event after the reporting period. So first is the nature of the event and the estimate of its financial effect or a statement that such an estimate cannot be made. So PAS 10, or the standard, sets provided few examples of non-adjusting events after the reporting period that are considered material. So if these events are material, these if these events are material, disclosures are required for such information. Again, when we say non-adjusting events, the conditions related to these events existed after the reporting period. So first is a major business combination after the reporting period or disposing a major subsidiary. So since business combination is a material transaction which will affect the company as a whole, although this happened after the reporting period, it will be disclosed, it should be part of the disclosure for the current reporting period. Then letter B, announcing a plan to discontinue an operation. Again, a discontinuance of an operation is a material transaction. So although this occurred after the reporting period, this requires disclosure to the financial statements for the current reporting period. Next is major purchases of assets, classifications of assets as held for sale in accordance with IFRS 5, non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations, other disposals of assets, or expropriation of major assets by the government. Letter D, the destruction of a major production plant by a fire after the reporting period. Letter E, announcing or commencing the implementation of a major restructuring. Letter F, major ordinary share transaction and potential ordinary share transactions after the reporting period. Letter G, abnormally large changes after the reporting period in asset prices or foreign exchange rates. Letter H, changes in tax rates or tax laws enacted or announced after the reporting period that have a significant effect on current and deferred tax assets and liabilities. Letter I, entering into significant commitments or contingent liabilities, for example, by issuing significant guarantees. And letter J, commencing major litigation arising solely out of events that occurred after the reporting period. So these transactions are all considered material. So these are major transactions that needs disclosure in the financial statements for the current reporting period, though these events occur after the end of the reporting period. Now let us proceed to the two types of events after the reporting period. So these are the adjusting and non-adjusting events. So first is the adjusting event. So again, to be considered as an adjusting event, such event must be related to a condition that existed on or before the end of the reporting date. It means that the adjusting event will have an effect on the current reporting period. So for our example, the current reporting period is the year 2008. So the adjusting event will have an effect on the financial statements of year 2008 because this event is related to the condition that already existed before the end of year 2008. So if this is an adjusting event, what are the accounting treatment for such event? So first, we have an adjustment in the face of the financial statements in 2008. So it means that we need to prepare a journal entry that will adjust the amount to be presented in the face of the financial statement for the year 2008, or just an update of disclosures for the year 2008. Now, the next type of event after the reporting period is the non-adjusting event. So to become a non-adjusting event, it means that it will not affect the current reporting period, which is in this case, year 2008. So for that to happen, such event should not be related to any condition that existed in year 2000A, which is the current reporting period. To become a non-adjusting event, it should be related to a condition that only exists after the reporting period. That is why this event will not affect the current year, which is 2000A. To be considered as a non-adjusting event, it will only affect the succeeding reporting period, which is year 2000B. So what is the accounting treatment if an event is a non-adjusting event? So the accounting treatment for a non-adjusting event depends on the materiality of the information resulting from the non-adjusting event. So if the information related to the non-adjusting event is a material information, although the event occurred after the reporting period and it will not affect the face of the financial statements for the current period, the information related to a non-adjusting event needs to be disclosed for the year 2008 or the current reporting period. However, if the related information is considered as immaterial, such information may be ignored in the financial statements for the current period. So now let's focus on non-adjusting events after the reporting period. So according to the standard PAS 10, if non-adjusting events after the reporting period are material, non-disclosure could reasonably be expected to influence decisions that the primary users of general-purpose financial statements make on the basis of those financial statements, which provide financial information about a specific reporting entity. So again, as I have said earlier, non-adjusting events should be disclosed if the information related is material. Again, when an information is considered as material, the absence or the presence of that information in the financial statements would greatly affect the decision of the users of the financial statements. However, if an information is only immaterial, the absence or the presence of such information will have no effect on the decision making. So again, if the non-adjusting event after the reporting period is material, our accounting treatment is a disclosure in the notes to the financial statements. And what are the information that needs to be disclosed in the notes to the financial statements? So first is the nature of the event, and second is the estimate of its financial effect, or a statement that such an estimate cannot be made. So there are events that are specifically mentioned in the standard PAS 10. So this includes dividends. So if an entity declares dividends to holders of equity instruments after the reporting period, the entity shall not recognize those dividends as a liability at the end of the reporting period. Again, this is considered as a non-adjusting event because such dividend declaration occur after the end of the reporting period. That is why, according to the standard, it will not affect the current reporting period by recognizing a dividend liability. However, for going concern, the same shall not be the case. So, an entity shall not prepare its financial statements on a going concern basis if management determines after the reporting period either that it intends to liquidate the entity or to cease trading or that it has no realistic alternative but to do so. Again, this is also an event after the reporting period. And these events include the intention of the entity to be liquidated or to cease trading that happens after the reporting period, which means that the entity will no longer be considered as a going concern entity. And since the entity will no longer continue its operation, to present the financial statements of the entity during the current reporting period under a going concern basis will violate the principle of going concern because we will only prepare the financial statements on a going concern basis if we expect that the entity will continue to operate in the near future. So although the going concern issue occur after the end of the reporting period, it will still affect the financial statements of the current reporting period by changing its presentation of the financial statements from a going concern basis to a liquidating basis. So to illustrate the concepts for events after the reporting period, let us answer an illustrative problem. So ABC Company, a real estate company, was a defendant in a lawsuit. Mr. Reclamador discovered a defect in the property he recently purchased from ABC after signing the papers. The defects include unauthorized improvements due to lack of permits and numerous construction issues. Mr. Reclamador is asking for a 500,000 peso damages. ABC Company's reporting date is December 31, 2020, and its financial statements are authorized by the management for issuance on May 1, 2021. So let us start with Case A. Mr. Reclamador purchased the property in 2020 and filed the lawsuit in the same year after discovery of the defects. According to ABC's lawyers, it is probable that ABC Company will pay damages amounting to 300,000 pesos. In February 2021, the legal department of ABC Company estimated that the entity will pay damages amounting to 400,000 pesos. So before we proceed, let us determine the two dates, which are important dates to determine whether an event is under PAS 10. So again, the dates are the end of the reporting date and the date the financial statements are authorized for issue. So based on the problem, the reporting date ends on December 31, 2020. Then, the date the financial statements are authorized for issue by the management is May 1, 2021. So, any event that will occur between these two dates are under PAS 10. So, again, what happened in 2021? So, based on Case A, what are the events that occurred between these two dates? So again, Mr. Reclamador purchased the property in 2020 and filed the lawsuit in the same year after the discovery of the defects. According to ABC's lawyers, it is probable that ABC Company will pay damages amounting to 300,000 pesos. In February 2021, the legal department of ABC Company estimated that the entity will pay damages amounting to 400,000 pesos. So the event that occurred in 2021, which is in February, is the revision of the estimate. So there is a change in estimate. So this is the event after the reporting period, which is in February. The events after reporting period can be an adjusting event or a non-adjusting event. So this event, which is the change of estimate, is this an adjusting or a non-adjusting event? To consider an event as an adjusting event, there must be a condition that already existing in 2020. And what is the condition that must exist in 2020 so that the change of estimate in 2021 will be considered as an adjusting event? So that is the purchase. So the date of purchase must be in 2020. Because the very reason that all the events occurred is because of the purchase made by Mr. Reclamador, not the discovery of the defect and not the date Mr. Reclamador filed the lawsuit. The very reason that must be in 2020 so that the change of estimate must be an adjusting event should be the main reason why all the events occurred, and that is the purchase transaction. Again, the condition or the event that must exist in 2020 is the purchase, not the discovery of the defect and not the filing of the lawsuit, because the purchase transaction is the main reason for all the events that happened. And since the change of estimate is related to the purchase that happened in 2020, so this event is considered as an adjusting event. So first, before we prepare the adjusting journal entry in 2020, let us first prepare the initial entry made in 2020. So the entry would be a debit to loss on lawsuit, which is 300,000 pesos, and credit estimated liability on lawsuit for 300,000 pesos. So this is based on the second sentence, which is according to ABC's lawyers, it is probable that ABC company will pay damages amounting to 300,000 pesos. So in your intermediate accounting 2, you have learned that this type of transaction can be considered as a provision because the likelihood that the entity will pay the damages is probable. And according to the discussion in intermediate accounting 2, provisions are recorded when the likelihood is probable. So that is why we have recorded 300,000 as a debit to loss on lawsuit and credit to estimated liability on lawsuit because the 300,000 pesos is the best estimate. Again, provisions must be recorded always at best estimate. So this is the initial entry in 2020. Then in February 2021, they revised their estimate from 300 to 400,000 pesos. So the best estimate in 2021 is no longer 300. So the best estimate is now at 400,000 pesos. And since this is an event after the reporting period, and this is related to the condition or the event in 2020, which is the purchase made by Mr. Reclamador, so we need to prepare an adjusting journal entry. So you're going to prepare the adjusting journal entry to update the estimated liability on lawsuit that we have recorded. So that will be made on December 31, 2020. Again, the revision is made in February 2021. So technically, we are going to prepare this adjusting journal entry in February, but this must be recorded in the books of 2020. So that will be a debit to loss on lawsuit for an additional amount of 100,000 pesos and a credit to estimated liability on lawsuit for 100,000 pesos. So that the estimated liability on lawsuit that will appear in the statement of financial position for the year 2020 is not 300,000 pesos. Instead, it should be at 400,000 pesos, which is the best estimate. So moreover, why do we need to adjust from 300 to 400? So between 300 and 400,000 pesos, the better estimate is 400,000 pesos because there might be more information that were used to determine the 400,000 pesos. And if only those information were already available in 2020, we have not recorded 300,000 pesos. Instead, we could have recorded 400,000 pesos. Only if the information available in 2021 has already been made available in 2020. However, that is not the case. The information only was available in 2021. That is why a better estimate was made, which is 400,000 pesos. So now let us proceed to letter B. So Mr. Reclamador purchased the property in 2020 and filed the lawsuit in February 2021 after the discovery of the defects. According to ABC's lawyers, it is probable that ABC company will pay damages amounting to 300,000 pesos. So again, the two dates are December 31, 2020 and May 1, 2021. So what is the event or the condition that is existing in 2020? So again, that is the purchase, which is made by Mr. Reclamador. So what are the events after the reporting period? First is the filing of the lawsuit, which is in February 2021, which is again related to the purchase made in 2020, and the estimate, which is the 300,000 pesos damages. So again, these two events must be classified whether adjusting or a non-adjusting event, since these two events are both related to the purchase made in 2020, which means these are all adjusting events. So let us prepare the adjusting journal entry. But first, let us prepare the initial entry made in 2020. The question is there an entry made in 2020? And the answer is none. So why is there no entry made in 2020? That is because as of 2020, there is no lawsuit yet that has been filed. So it means the entity ABC Company has still no idea about the defect in the property purchased by Mr. Reclamador, and that is as of 2020. So, and this is the reason why there is no entry made in relation to the lawsuit for 2020. And since the lawsuit has been actually filed in February 2021, that is the only time we discovered that there is a defect in the property purchased by Mr. Reclamador. And because of this, in February 2021, we already consider the possibilities that might occur if the lawsuit will progress. Either we will lose the case or we will win the case. And any estimates has been initially made after February 2021. But still, since the defect is already existing in 2020, this is considered as an adjusting event. So, although the lawsuit has been filed in February 2021, it will still affect the 2020 financial statements because it is related to a condition that has been existing already in 2020, and that is the purchase of the defective property. So let us now prepare the adjusting journal entry in 2020. Again, this will be made in 2021, but it will be recorded in the books for 2020, dated December 31, 2020. So the journal entry would be a debit to loss on lawsuit for 300,000 pesos and a credit to estimated liability on lawsuit for 300,000 pesos. Again, these are adjusting journal entries because the events are adjusting events related to the purchase made in 2020. So now let us proceed to case C. So Mr. Reclamador purchased the property in 2020 and filed the lawsuit in the same year after the discovery of the defects. According to ABC's lawyers, it is possible that the entity will pay damages amounting to 350,000 pesos. In February 2021, the legal department of ABC Company estimated that the entity will pay damages amounting to 400,000 pesos. Again, the two dates are December 31, 2020 and May 1, 2021. And the events after reporting period must be between these two dates. So first, let us determine the condition that must exist in 2020 so that the event that will occur between the two dates will be considered as an adjusting event. And that is the purchase of Mr. Reclamador of the property. Regardless whether the lawsuit is filed in 2020 or in 2021, which in case B, the lawsuit is actually filed in 2021. So that is for case B. However, for case C, the lawsuit has been filed in 2020. So what are the events that occur in 2021 related to the purchase made in 2020? So that is the change of estimate. So we have an initial estimate of 350,000 pesos in 2020 and it has been revised in February 2021. So again, is the revision of the estimate considered as adjusting event or a non-adjusting event? This is considered as an adjusting event because the 400,000 is related to the purchase made in 2020. So which means we're going to prepare an adjusting journal entry so that the initial estimate made in 2020 will be updated. But first, let us prepare the initial entry made in 2020. So first, let us prepare the initial treatment made by the entity in 2020. So based on the problem, case C, it is possible that the entity will pay damages amounting to 350,000 pesos. So the likelihood is only possible, which is quantitatively below 50%. And in intermediate accounting 2, if the likelihood is possible or below 50%, it is considered as a contingent liability. And contingent liabilities are not recorded in the books. They are only disclosed in the notes to the financial statements. So it means that for the 350,000 pesos, we will not prepare a journal entry so it may be presented in the face of the financial statements. Instead, we are only going to prepare a disclosure. So the initial disclosure made in 2020 will be for the 350,000 pesos contingent liability. Then the event happened in 2021, which is the revision of the estimate. So the revision of estimate is only the revision of the amount, not the revision of the likelihood. Because based on the sentence, in February 2021, the legal department of ABC Company estimated that the entity will pay damages amounting to 400,000 pesos. So we assume that the likelihood is still possible. However, the amount is 400,000 pesos. So it means that we are not going to prepare again a journal entry as an adjusting journal entry because the likelihood is still possible. We are only going to record a liability if the likelihood is probable, which is more than 50%. So in this case, we are only going to update the disclosure made in 2020. So as an adjusting event, we are going to update the disclosure from 350 to 400,000 pesos. If you notice, we are not using the 500,000 damages which was asked by the plaintiff because this is not the best estimate. Always remember that we only record liabilities for provisions at best estimate, regardless of the amount being asked by the plaintiff. So that will be the answer for case C. So now let us proceed to case D. Mr. Reclamador purchased the property in 2020 and filed the lawsuit in the same year after the discovery of the defects. According to ABC's lawyers, it is possible that the entity will pay damages amounting to 350,000 pesos. In February 2021, the legal department of ABC Company estimated that it is probable that the entity will lose the case and will pay damages amounting to 400,000 pesos. Again, the relevant dates are December 31, 2020 and May 1, 2021. So again, what is the event that occurred after the reporting period? That is the change in estimate. So the question is this event related to any condition or event that already existing in 2020? Of course, the answer is yes, because the purchase made by Mr. Reclamador is in 2020. Again, regardless of the date the lawsuit has been filed, the condition that must exist always in 2020 based on this problem must be the date of purchase. So based on this, the change of estimate in 2021 is considered as an adjusting event. So before we prepare the adjusting journal entry, let us prepare the initial entry made in 2020. So the initial treatment by the entity is just a disclosure in 2020. So that will be a contingent liability for 350,000 pesos. Again, why is it a contingent liability that will only require a disclosure, not a journal entry? Because the likelihood is possible. So according to ABC's lawyers, it is possible that the entity will pay damages amounting to 350,000 pesos. So it means that these transactions will only require disclosure. Now let us proceed to the event that occurred in 2021, which is the revision of estimate. So the legal department of ABC estimated that it is probable. So since this is probable, it means it is no longer a contingent liability. It is now a provision, and provision must be recorded. However, for the liability to be recorded, there should also be a best estimate. And the best estimate in 2021 is 400,000 pesos. Since the likelihood is probable and we have a best estimate of 400,000 pesos, we are now going to record a journal entry. So the adjusting journal entry on December 31, 2020 is a debit to loss on lawsuit for 400,000 pesos and a credit to estimated liability on lawsuit for 400,000 pesos. So our amount to be recorded is the full amount of 400,000 pesos because we have not recorded any amount in 2020. We only prepared a disclosure. So now let us proceed to case E. Mr. Reclamador purchased the property in 2020 and filed the lawsuit in the same year after the discovery of the defects. According to ABC's lawyers, it is probable that the entity will pay damages amounting to 300,000 pesos. In February 2021, the legal department of ABC Company estimated that it is possible that the entity will lose the case and pay the 350,000 damages. Again, the relevant dates are December 31, 2020 and May 1, 2021, and any events that will occur between these two dates are the events under PAS 10. So let us determine what are the events that occurred between these dates. So that is the event that occurred in 2021 of February. So the legal department of ABC Company estimated that it is possible that the entity will lose the case and pay the damages of 350,000 pesos. So the event that occurred that is considered as an event after the reporting period is the change in the likelihood and the estimate. The initial estimate of the likelihood is that the liability is probable. So the entity losing the case is more than 50%. And the amount that is considered as the best estimate is 300,000 pesos. However, in February 2021, the revision is that from probable, it is now possible, and from 300, it is now at 350,000 pesos. So there are two changes in 2021, and those are the likelihood and the estimate. So before we proceed to the determination whether this event is a non-adjusting or adjusting event, let us first prepare the initial treatment made by the entity in 2020. So based on the second sentence, the amount is 300,000 pesos, so this is the best estimate, and the likelihood is probable, which means that the liability is considered as a provision, and provision requires a journal entry, which must be recorded in the books. So to record the initial entry in 2020, that will be a debit to loss on lawsuit for 300,000 pesos, which is the initial best estimate, and credit estimated liability on lawsuit for 300,000 pesos. Then, let us now determine whether we are going to prepare an adjusting journal entry for 2020. So again, to make this event as an adjusting event, there must be a condition that must exist in 2020. That is the purchase made by Mr. Reclamador. And is this two related? Of course, yes. The change of likelihood and estimate is related to the lawsuit filed by Mr. Reclamador because of the defects from the property he purchased in 2020. So it means that there must be an adjusting journal entry. So to adjust from probable, it must be possible. It means that from provision, which is the initial classification, it must be reclassified as a contingent liability in 2020. So the accounting treatment for a contingent liability is not to be recorded in the face of the financial statement. Instead, it only requires disclosure. So, from provision to contingent liability, since contingent liability must not be recorded, we need to reverse the journal entry that we have made in 2020. So that will be made on December 31, 2020 by a reversing journal entry. So that will be a debit to estimated liability on lawsuit and a credit to loss on lawsuit for 300,000 pesos. So this entry will reverse the initial entry made in 2020 based on the initial estimate. So since the liability is now a contingent liability, instead of a journal entry, what we need is a disclosure for the contingent liability amounting to 350,000 pesos. So this is the answer for case E. So now let us proceed to the last case, case F. Mr. Reclamador purchased the property in the early part of January 2021 and filed the lawsuit in February in the same year after discovery of the defects. According to ABC's lawyers, it is probable that ABC Company will pay damages amounting to 300,000 pesos. In February 2021, the legal department of ABC Company estimated that the entity will pay damages amounting to 400,000 pesos. So, in this case, let us determine the event that occurred after December 31, 2020. Again, the relevant dates are December 31, 2020 and May 1, 2021. So what are the events considered under PAS 10? So that is the purchase. So unlike case A to case E, the purchase in case F occurred in 2021, which is the condition that must exist in 2020 in order for the events that will occur in 2021 to become an adjusting event. And since for case F, the purchase has been made in 2021, it means any event that will occur in 2021 between December 31, 2020 and May 1, 2021 are now all non-adjusting events because any event that will occur are related to the condition that is only existing in 2021, which is the purchase. And also, the filing of lawsuit has been made in 2021 because the purchase has been made only in 2021. So any estimates that will be made by the entity during these periods will no longer affect the books in 2020 because these events are all non-adjusting events. Again, all the estimates that will be made during this period will not affect the books in 2020, the books of 2020, because the events are non-adjusting events. However, if the non-adjusting event occurred between this period, we need to determine whether such event is a material event or an immaterial event. If the event is considered as material, it requires a disclosure in the notes to the financial statements. However, if the event is immaterial, it can be ignored. So for discussion purposes, we are going to assume that this event is material. And again, what is the accounting treatment for a material non-adjusting event? It must be disclosed. So the disclosure would be a contingent liability for an amount of 400,000 pesos. So DEF Company has a claim from JKL Corporation for 1 million pesos, which has a provision of 50,000 pesos as uncollectible. According to DEF's lawyer, the amount collectible from JKL is expected to be 650,000 pesos. On April 30, 2021, the court finally declared JKL Corporation as bankrupt and ordered to wind its business operation. According to DEF's legal advice, the final amount collectible from JKL amounted to 400,000 pesos. The financial statements were authorized by its board of directors for issuance on May 10, 2021. So first, let us answer case 1. So for case 1 on August 25, 2020, JKL Corporation filed for bankruptcy. Again, the claim of DEF Company from JKL Corporation is already outstanding in 2020, and JKL Corporation has been declared bankrupt by the court in 2021. Again, since there is an event that occurred after the reporting period, we need to determine the two important dates to determine whether this event is an adjusting event or a non-adjusting event. The current year, which is the reporting period, is 2020. Then the year subsequent to 2020, of course, is 2021. And assuming the calendar year of accounting period, our accounting period for 2020, of course, will end on December 31, 2020. And based on the problem, the date the financial statements are authorized for issue is on May 10, 2021. So which means any event that will occur between December 31, 2020 and May 10, 2021 are events after the reporting period, which is under PAS 10. So again, based on the problem, the event that occurred between these two dates is a court decision about JKL's bankruptcy. And due to this court decision, we are able to determine the final amount of receivable from JKL that will be collectible, which is 400,000 pesos. Again, we need to determine whether this event is a non-adjusting event or an adjusting event. So in order for this event to become an adjusting event, there must be a condition or an event that already existing in 2020. If none, this event will become a non-adjusting event. However, in 2020, there is already a condition existing related to JKL, and that is JKL is in financial distress. How did we determine that JKL Corporation is already in financial distress in 2020? That is because, based on case 1, JKL Corporation filed for bankruptcy on August 25, 2020. There is no other reason for the filing of bankruptcy other than financial distress. Because of this financial distress, the receivable of DEF Company from JKL Corporation should be properly valued in its statement of financial position. That is why we need to record any uncollectible accounts from the claim from JKL Corporation. Of course, prior to the court decision, we have already recorded an allowance for uncollectible accounts related to JKL receivable, and that is only based on estimate. However, due to the court decision, which is already final, we are able to determine how much of the receivable is actually uncollectible. And since the court decision is related to a condition that is already existing in 2020, it means that the event after the reporting period is considered as an adjusting event. So since this is an adjusting event, we need to prepare an adjusting entry. But before we prepare the adjusting entry, let us first prepare the initial entry to better understand the adjusting entry that we are about to prepare. So the initial entry would be in 2020, and that is a debit to bad debt expense for 300,000 pesos and a credit to allowance for bad debt at 300,000 pesos. So where did we get the 300,000 pesos? So based on the problem, according to DEF's lawyer, the amount collectible from JKL is expected to be 650,000 pesos, and that is the estimate in 2020, which means only 650,000 pesos is expected to be collectible out of a total of 1 million pesos. And that leaves the 350,000 pesos as an uncollectible accounts. So the allowance for bad debts at the end of 2020 should be at 350,000 pesos. And that is 1 million minus 650. However, since we already have recorded a 50,000 pesos uncollectible accounts, which means we need to record an additional 300,000 pesos in order for us to have an ending balance of allowance for bad debts of 350,000 pesos. So that is why we have recorded an additional 300,000 allowance for bad debts to make it 350,000 by the end of 2020. So as of December 31, 2020, prior to any adjustment, the balance of the allowance for bad debts after this entry is 350,000 pesos. And based on the court decision in 2021, since this is an adjusting event, we need to adjust the allowance for bad debt that is recorded in the books. So from 350,000 pesos allowance for bad debts, which is the unadjusted balance, we need to increase the allowance for bad debts to 600,000 pesos because based on the court decision, only 400,000 pesos is collectible from JKL Corporation, which means that 600,000 pesos is the total uncollectible accounts. And since we already have a 350,000 peso balance, we need to add 250,000 pesos bad debt expense. So that will be the adjusting entry on December 31, 2020 by debiting bad debt expense for 250,000 pesos and credit allowance for bad debt for 250,000 pesos. And since the 400,000 pesos is already the final amount collectible, and it means that the 600,000 pesos will no longer be collectible, it means that there is a need to write off the 600,000 pesos. So of course, to write off an account receivable using allowance method, we need to debit allowance for bad debt, 600,000 pesos, then credit accounts receivable, 600,000 pesos. So why did we debit allowance for bad debt, 600,000 pesos? Remember, prior to the 300,000 pesos we have recorded, there is already a balance of allowance for bad debts at 50,000 pesos. So 50,000 pesos plus 300 plus 250,000 pesos, we have a total of 600,000 pesos. And that is the total amount related to the claim from JKL Corporation. So that is the amount debited to allowance for bad debt upon write-off. Or you may record it using a compound journal entry. So the debit would be bad debt expense, 250,000 pesos, debit allowance for bad debt, 350,000 pesos, and credit accounts receivable for 600,000 pesos. So the other reason why we recorded the additional 250,000 pesos bad debt expense is that although the information about the final amount of uncollectible claims is only determined after the reporting date, we adjusted the books in 2020 because as much as possible, we want to present a more reliable and truthful information in the face of the financial statements because we know that all information presented in the financial statements will affect the decisions of the users of the financial statements. However, that is not applicable in every case. In this instance, we are only allowed to prepare an adjusting entry for the current year, which is 2020, because the event that occurred after the reporting period is considered as an adjusting event, where such event is related to a condition that is already existing in 2020. Because although there is an event that occur after the reporting period, but it is not related to any condition existing on or before the end of the reporting period, as much as we want to prepare an adjusting entry, we cannot because such event is a non-adjusting event and that is not allowed by PAS 10. So this is the compound journal entry of these two entries. So that will be for case 1. So now let us proceed to case 2. Actually, the answer for case 1 and case 2 are similar. So it means that the court decision in 2021 is still considered as an adjusting event, although JKL Corporation filed for the bankruptcy on January 5, 2021, which is already after the reporting period, which is 2020. Because the condition that must exist in 2020, which is the current reporting period, is not the filing for bankruptcy. The condition that must exist in 2020 is the reason why JKL filed for bankruptcy. The reason, of course, why JKL filed for bankruptcy because it is in financial distress. So our assumption is that JKL is already in financial distress in 2020 because its filing for bankruptcy is only 5 days away from 2020. Because financial distress does not happen overnight. If JKL filed for bankruptcy on January 5, 2021, it already experienced financial distress in 2020. And it gets worse. That is why it has decided that in 2021, instead of continuing its operation, they will just file for bankruptcy. And that happened on January 5, 2021. So, again, the basis, the condition that must exist in 2020 is not the filing for bankruptcy. The condition that must exist in 2020 in order for the event to become an adjusting event is the reason why the entity filed for bankruptcy, which is financial distress. So again, this is the answer for both case 1 and case 2. For case 3, the court decision is on June 1 instead of April 30, 2021. So for case 3, this time the court decision did not happen between the end of the reporting date, which is 2020, and May 10, 2021. So it happened on June 1, 2021, which is after May 10, 2021, which is after the date the financial statements are authorized for issue. So for case 3, so the court decision did not occur between December 31, 2020 and May 10, 2021. So it occurred after May 10, which is June 1, 2021. So if the court decision happened after the date the financial statements were authorized for issue, the event will no longer be classified under PAS 10. Again, under PAS 10, to be considered as an event after reporting period, it should be between the end of the reporting date and the date the financial statements are authorized for issue. So in this case, for case 3, the court decision is a non-adjusting event. So this non-adjusting event will no longer require us to determine whether such event is material or immaterial. Because once the event is after the date of authorization, we can no longer adjust or update the disclosure in the financial statements of the current reporting period. Because after the date of authorization, our assumption is that the financial statements were already issued and submitted to the users of the financial statements. That is why we can no longer revise the financial statements. That is why the court decision in case 3 is considered as a non-adjusting event. And since case 3 is considered as a non-adjusting event, which is not under PAS 10, therefore, there is no need to prepare the adjusting entry that we have made similar to case 1 and case 2. So there will be no adjusting entry. So this will be the answer for case 3. So for the last problem, ABC Company has a warehouse located in Taguig, the central warehouse for all ABC Company's products. On August 20, 2020, a fire broke and destroyed several sections of the warehouse. The carrying value of the warehouse destroyed amounted to 1 million pesos. However, some items could still be salvaged for 200,000 pesos. On March 31, 2021, the entity discovered that the total carrying value of the sections destroyed from the fire amounted to 1.5 million pesos, and the insurance company approved under its fire insurance policy that it will compensate half of the loss suffered from the accident. The board of directors of ABC Company authorized the issuance of its financial statements on April 30, 2021. The financial statements were presented for approval in the annual shareholders meeting on May 15, 2021. So let us answer case 1. So ABC company filed for the insurance claim in 2020 of October. So before we proceed, let us determine the two important dates, and that is the year end of 2020. Again, we are going to assume the calendar year. So that will be December 31, 2020. Then the date the financial statements are authorized for issue. So based on the third paragraph, the date is April 30, 2021, which is the date the Board of Directors approved or authorized the issuance of the financial statements. Again, although on May 15, 2021, the shareholders approved the financial statements, the date that will still be considered as the date of authorization is the date the Board of Directors authorized the financial statements for issue. So that will be April 30, 2021. So now let us determine the event after the reporting period under PAS 10. So based on the second paragraph on March 31, 2021, so this is between December 31 and April 30. The entity discovered that the total carrying value of the sections destroyed from the fire amounted to 1.5 million pesos. And the insurance company approved under its fire insurance policy that it will compensate half of the loss suffered from the accident. So there are two events that occurred after the reporting period under PAS 10. First is the determination of the total carrying value of the property destroyed and the approval of the insurance claim. So these are the two events that occurred after the reporting period. Again, that is the determination of the final value of the property destroyed and the approval of the insurance claim. So we need to determine whether these two are adjusting or non-adjusting event. In order for us to determine whether these are adjusting events, we need to determine if there is a condition or event that existed already in 2020. And of course, based on the problem, there is an event that occurred in 2020, and that is the fire accident. And the events in 2021 are all related to the fire accident that occurred in 2020. So which means that the events after the reporting period are all adjusting events. So before we proceed to the adjusting entry, let us first prepare the entry that is made in 2020. So that will be on August 2020. So the journal entry would be a credit to warehouse for 1 million pesos because as of the end of 2020, the initial carrying value determined that were destroyed by fire is 1 million pesos. And out of the 1 million pesos, 200,000 pesos can be recovered or can be salvaged. As a result, the entity recorded a loss from fire, which is 800,000 pesos. So that is net of the salvage materials. Again, since we have two events that occurred in 2021, which are events after the reporting date, it means that we have to record adjusting entries on December 31, 2020. So first is the final value of the property destroyed. Again, the final value is 1.5 million. And we already derecognize 1 million pesos from the warehouse account. It means we need to derecognize an additional amount of 500,000 pesos. So that will be debited to loss from fire for 500,000 pesos. Then the approval of insurance claim, which is the second event. So the amount that can be claimed from the insurance is considered as a contingent asset. Again, in Intermediate Accounting 2, contingent asset is only recorded if it's virtually certain that the amount will be collectible. So in this problem, since the claim has already been approved by the insurance company, it means that the insurance claim is already virtually certain. So that is why we are now allowed to record a receivable account for the insurance claim. So that will be a debit to receivable from insurance for 650,000 pesos and credit to recovery from insurance for 650,000 pesos. So how did we get the 650,000 pesos? according to the problem, the amount that will be compensated by the insurance company is half of the loss suffered by the entity. So based on the amount recorded under the loss from fire account, we have a total of 1,300,000 pesos. So that is the total of 800,000 pesos and 500,000 pesos. So 1.3 million divided by 2. So that will be 650,000 pesos, and that is the amount that can be recovered from the insurance. So this is the answer for case 1. So how about case 2? ABC Company filed for the insurance claim in January 2021. The answer for case 1 is similar to case 2. The two events that occurred after the reporting period are all considered adjusting event, although the entity filed for the insurance claim only in January 2021. Because again, the event that must exist or the condition that must exist on or before 2020 is not the filing of insurance claim. It must be the reason why the entity filed for the insurance claim. And that is because of the fire accident that occurred in 2020. So that is why the two events are still adjusting events under case 2. So the answer for case 1 and case 2 are similar. So now let us proceed to case 3. So now for case 3, the claim from insurance is approved on May 10, 2021. So instead of March 31, the approval is received on May 10, 2021. So again, there are two events that occurred after 2020. However, the event that is considered under PAS 10 is only the event that will occur between these two dates. Then the condition that existed in 2020 is the fire accident. Again, similar to case 1 and case 2, the determination of the final value of the property destroyed is considered as an adjusting event because this occurred between the two dates and this is related to the condition existed in 2020, which is the fire accident. However, the date of the approval of the insurance claim happened after April 30, 2021, and that is on May 10, 2021. So since this is an event that occurred after the date the financial statements were authorized for issue, this is no longer under PAS 10. So this will be a non-adjusting event that requires no disclosure, regardless whether the event is a material information or immaterial information. So to record the journal entry, our entry in 2020 is same in case 1 and case 2. So that will be on August 20, which is the date of fire. So that will be a credit to warehouse for 1 million, debit to salvage materials for 200,000 pesos, and debit loss from fire for 800,000 pesos. However, for the adjusting entries, the adjusting entry would only relate to the adjusting event, which is the determination of the final value of the property destroyed, where we need to record an additional 500,000 pesos for the recognition of warehouse. So that will be on December 31, 2020. Again, the information is discovered in 2021. So which means that the journal entries will be actually prepared in 2021, but the journal entries must be recorded in the books for 2020. So that will be a credit to warehouse for 500,000 and a debit loss from fire for 500,000 pesos. So although the insurance claim is virtually certain because the entity already received the approval of the insurance company, we are not allowed to record the receivable from insurance because, again, the approval has been received after the date the FS are authorized for issue. So this ends our discussion on PAS 10, which is about events after the reporting period.